Hello friends, this is Amanda Douglas, CNHP and proud Arbonne consultant, and I wanted to come to you today to talk to you about hormones, something that affects everyone because I think we are super ill-educated on what goes on in our own bodies and what we need to support our own bodies, right? And so I want to cover a couple of things in this little chat. What are hormones and how do they affect us? And some simple things we can do lifestyle wise to help support our hormones, but then also talk about some really key intentional products specifically for balancing women's hormones, yay, that Arbonne has come out with back in June. Now, mind you, just a little background, Arbonne is a 45-year-old company. They're gluten-free and dairy-free. They're vegan and cruelty-free. They're certified non-GMO. They are a certified B Corporation. They are kosher and halal. And they ban over 2,000 chemicals on our not allowed list that our own FDA does allow in personal care and food products. If you didn't know, our FDA bans about, I think it's 20, give or take right now. So that just gives you a standard of the clean of the company. And because they're a B Corporation, everything is sustainably and ethically sourced. So that's a big deal for me. A lot of people that are having, issues, let's say with hormones, don't want to do hormone replacement therapy. There's a lot of reasons for that I won't go into, but rather from a holistic and natural standpoint of wellness, trying to support our own bodies to do what they were created to do, right? That is always the better route if it's possible. And I do believe in a lot of cases it is, because our bodies are amazing biological machines and they are interested in not just surviving, but thriving. And when given the right tools, healing truly is possible, I believe, for anyone. So let's get into really quick what hormones are. Then we'll talk about some health hacks and habits to support them. And then we will talk about some key products that I really believe Arbonne is so very smart and intentional, and nature and science blended together in the best way to support these biological machines with the plants that were created on purpose to support these biological machines. So let's get into it. Hormones. These are little chemical messengers in our bodies, and they are produced by glands in the system called our endocrine system. So typically, if you have an issue with hormones or with a gland or organ that produces hormones, you're going to go see an endocrinologist, right? The unfortunate part is most of those endocrinologists are not super knowledgeable about nutrition and lifestyle type things, which are the first way that we need to address hormone imbalance rather than using petroleum-based synthetic medicines, right? So these chemical messengers are produced by glands and organs and tissues that are part of the endocrine system. They travel through the bloodstream to regulate various body functions. Things like growth, metabolism, our sleep-wake cycle, our mood, our blood pressure, our blood sugar, our electrolyte balance, and even reproductive issues, right? And functions. So our hormones do a lot of things. They are basically signals that tell your body what to do and when to do it. And there's over 50 known hormones that we have scientifically identified in the human body. So hormones only work on their specific target tissues, because think of it like a lock and key. The hormone is like a little key and the cell has a little lock. And you have to have the correct shaped lock and the correct shaped key for them to go together and for it to work, right? And so you can have different types of communication with your hormones. It could be between two different endocrine glands, like your pituitary gland and your thyroid. It could be communication between a gland and a target organ, like your pancreas, secreting insulin, which acts on your muscles and your liver to process glucose, right? So these are super important functions. I'm trying to get my phone to stop like slipping out here of my little holder. I might need a new one. And so think of it like this. I'll give you an analogy. My iPhone. 2 weeks ago, my iMessages weren't working. There was a glitch in the system, and messages that were being sent weren't being received. And sometimes messages weren't even being sent, or sometimes when they were received, they were like a different type of message. So they weren't doing exactly what they were supposed to. My pictures didn't. So I had to call Apple and get everything with my iMessage all squared away. But it's kind of the same thing with our hormones. We have to have really good communication and the proper things in our body for those messages to send and be received properly so that they can be utilized the way that they're supposed to, right? So we have a lot of specialized glands that they can make one or more substances. Sometimes it's hormones, digestive juices, sweat, tears, things like that. Endocrine glands specifically release hormones directly into our bloodstream. And so we have some different types of organs, right? We have our hypothalamus and pituitary and our pineal gland. We have our thyroid and parathyroid. We have our adrenal glands, which are these little beans that sit on top of our kidneys, our pancreas, our ovaries, if you're a female, or testes if you're a male. Also things that release hormones are our fat, our liver, our kidneys, and our GI tract. So we make a lot of hormones in our gut. You'll hear me like preach this till the cows come home. Gut health is essential to all of our body functions. Those good flora in our gut communicate to our brain via our vagus nerve. And there's a sad statistic out there that one round of antibiotics, which they don't discriminate, they clear out all flora, not just the bad stuff. So you're also erasing a lot of your good gut bacteria, but that makes you 26% more likely to have depression. Isn't that crazy? Because of the good flora that it's getting rid of as well. So I think if an antibiotic is necessary to manage a crisis situation of a very bad infection, good probiotics should also be prescribed with that. And Arbonne has some phenomenal ones, and we'll talk about that. And even the placenta, which is obviously a temporary organ for women that are in a gestation period, but that does also secrete hormones. Also, our kidneys make an active form of vitamin D, which is really not a vitamin, but it's more of like a prohormone. So it's like a building block of other hormones. Y'all need to be in the sunshine because when you get sunshine in your eyes, that triggers a whole slew of responses that are going to help your body make that vitamin D. And it's not the same as you would get even with a very good, clean, like vitamin D3K2 supplement. You cannot replace sunlight in your eyes. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. Your GI tract makes a lot of different hormones like ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone, somatostatin, glucagon, which is that GLP-1 peptide, which we actually have a product that helps with the production of that peptide, which helps in our metabolic rate and blood sugar sensitivity and insulin sensitivity and all the things. So that's just a little kind of overview of just an idea of what are hormones, what do they do? They're little chemical messengers that tell our body what to do and when to do it for so many different body functions that I mentioned. And I just kind of went through briefly some of those organs and tissues that are involved in those processes. So what are some easy life hacks that we can do to help our hormones? So kind of regulate them, support them, get our body in the best spot to produce and send those messages the way that they're supposed to. Especially for women as we age, but resistance training is huge. Okay, so resistance training stimulates human growth hormone. It helps control our blood sugar. If we're increasing lean muscle mass, we're also raising our resting metabolic rate. It stimulates and regulates our sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone. It also increases dopamine and serotonin. And dopamine is that feel-good hormone that like puts you in a good mood. Like if you've ever, gone running and you've ran like a couple of miles and then you finish, you have like that runner's high, right? It's one of the best feelings ever and why I love running. And then serotonin regulates like sleep, appetite, mood, memory, and even sexual performance. So there's a lot of things that are tied to those hormones that get released and increased with resistance training. It's also going to work in favor of our bone density folks. Resistance training is huge for bone density, which we need. And when we have strong muscles, and that helps support our skeletal frame, because it's a musculoskeletal system, right? They work together. That is going to help as well as we age, continue to give us vitality and mobility, and keep us ambulatory so that we are able to function in life. Another hack outside of resistance training is cruciferous veggies. So they can help detox estrogen from the liver. So an example of a cruciferous veggie would be like Brussels sprouts, right? And it helps provide excess fiber as well, or additional fiber that's going to aid in elimination and feed the good bacteria in your gut. So they're going to support your digestive tract, again, which is going to help with hormone balance, and flushing out the liver is another positive of those cruciferous veggies. Protein. So if we get protein in our diet, and high quality protein, like don't take some cheap whey protein that has a bunch of sugar and preservatives and shelf stabilizers in it. We're going to talk about a really clean one, because it matters. It really does matter, the quality of the protein that you get in your diet. But protein provides amino acids that are necessary for creating hormones like insulin and estrogen. Also healthy fats. So this is like your olive oil, your nuts like walnuts and pecans and pistachios, your fatty veggies like avocados, fatty fish like salmon, those omega-3 fatty acids, other lean meats, of course. I always tell people, stay away from pork, stay away from shellfish, stay away from those bottom feeders and trash cans of nature, because that's what they were created for. They're not really meant for human consumption, and those proteins are the most toxic, the most parasite ridden, and cause the most inflammatory response in our body. So you can scientifically research that yourself. And then, of course, polyunsaturated fatty acids decrease insulin resistance. So they are very, very helpful. So your movement and your nutrition are two huge things that are going to help with hormones. The other thing that I would say would be stress management. We're never going to be in a stress-free environment, but how we respond to it and how we handle stress is a big deal. I grew up in a bit of, a stressful household. I was constantly in fight or flight. My nervous system was definitely dysregulated, and I carried that anxiety, which was kind of a generational thing, just in my family. Everybody kind of runs high strung. And it was something that I realized and I had to deal with on the emotional, mental, and spiritual level. But then also we can really support those adrenal glands, which are the glands that, secrete cortisol and all of that response to our stress in life. So it's not that we're going to completely mitigate stress from being out there, but we can process stress differently. And if that's something that you would like to talk about, really specifics for your situation, we sure can. Happy to have that conversation. But just remember that you can always stop and do box breathing. It's crazy what just breathing does for regulating your nervous system. Breathing in for 10 seconds, holding it for 10 seconds, breathing out for 10 seconds really slow, and then pausing for 10 seconds before the next breath. Do that 2 or 3 times, and it really just sends signals to your brain, and it slows everything down. So that is just, if you're like, I'm in panic mode, that is something that you can take a time out and do. That's super duper simple and costs you nothing, but a few seconds. So now let's kind of move in really quick, because I wanted to keep this under 30 minutes, and we're heading into minute 14 here as far as my video count. I wanted to talk about some very specific products that Arbonne has that are just amazing, that are super smart, scientifically tested and backed, and that are, one, they're making a difference in my life with the last few weeks that I've been taking them, I can tell, but here's why they're so amazing. Arbonne is a vegan company, right? So what we have is plant-based, botanically based, and those plants were created to work with our bodies, right? Remember how we talked about lock and key? Well, there's a lot of plants that have a key and multiple keys. They're adaptogenic. You've heard that word. They can do multiple things in our body system to pivot and adjust and support different things as they're going on, which is what synthetic medications cannot do. They're engineered with chemicals that are not great for our bodies overall and cause biological side effects or like symptoms, consequences, right? So those medications that are petroleum based, which petroleum products are carcinogenic to the human body, they are not able to adapt. They do one thing and one thing only. And when you address one thing in your body, a lot of times now it's a waterfall effect. Other things are adjusting. So things need to constantly be like rebalanced and adjusted, and plants can do that. Plants are super duper smart. And I believe that our creator who created plants is super duper smart, and they're supposed to work with our bodies, right? All these carbon-based life forms. And so it's pretty amazing. So let me talk about, I'm going to kind of go through a few of these here. So cycle support. These are little capsules that you can take daily so that these herbs continue to kind of build up in your system. You take 2 at a time. And these are things that are going to help. This is $48, by the way, for preferred clients. So again, very comparable to a lot of other things that are out there and less expensive to many things. But this has in it chased berry, or it's also called Vitex, that suppresses the release of prolactin from the pituitary gland and normalizes the ratio of estrogen and progesterone. So it's helping to balance hormones. Chased berry is amazing. It also helps with mood swings, bloating, cramps, irregular periods, things like that. So from first cycle, this is something that all women, honestly, that are still getting a monthly bleed, should be taking. There's also rhodiola rosea, which helps regulate our cortisol, which is our stress hormone. It enhances ATP, so that's like our energy molecules, so it helps the production of that. It helps metabolize fat, and it also calms the nervous system, so again, supporting to those little adrenal glands. There's lemon balm in this as well. Lemon balm is the bomb. It has a calming effect. It helps with cognitive function, alertness, mood boosting, a digestive support. It does have antiviral properties, so it is also immune supporting. There is ginger in this as well, which helps reduce inflammation, boost your metabolism, super supportive to your GI tract and balancing the hormones because it loves on the liver. It also supports cardiovascular health as well as your brain. So lots of good things from lemon balm. Vitamin B6. Now, Arbonne's not putting synthetic junk in their things, people. You do not want synthetic vitamins. They will build up toxic in your system, especially if you have MTHFR gene mutations like myself. You have trouble with that methylation process and you're typically lower in glutathione, which these are necessary for your body processing and detoxing things, right? So if you have those gene mutations, this is very, very good. So B6 is required for over 100 different enzyme reactions in your body. So B6 is helping your body function like it should. It's also in our energy fizz. We have a whole profile of B vitamins in that. Conversions of amino acids into dopamine and serotonin. So this is helping in that process of making those hormones, right? It also helps signal and synthesize heme, which carries hemoglobin, helping oxygenate your blood, taking that to your organs. That's a big deal. So especially if you have like iron deficiencies and different things like that, this is a really great supplement. And then magnesium, which also there's like 15 forms of magnesium out there, right? But it calms the nervous system, supports your thyroid health, aids in sleep, and healthy mitochondria, which do you remember from like 5th grade science, the powerhouse of the cell, right? So again, if you're feeling sluggish and fatigued, you have that brain fog, you get the bloating and cramps, etc., this is so good for all menstruating women. Then we have got our meno support. So if you are peri, going through, or postmenopausal, here's your jam. So this is $50 for a preferred client. Again, very comparable to what else is on the market and much, much cleaner and more intentional. So there's an estrogen blend in this that is a proprietary blend, so it doesn't list that out. But we know Arbonne's clean standards and that they're just using botanicals, that they're ethically and sustainably sourced, so we can trust what is in there. So that botanical blend does not have any estrogenic effects. Remember, they third party like clinically test all of their things. So if you're worried, like, I've had breast cancer or ovarian cancer or whatever in the past, like, this is not going to mess with that. This is actually going to help and support. So it helps relieve symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, sleep disturbances, dizziness, even vaginal dryness. There's also grapeseed extract in here, which again, love for those adrenal glands, which are a main source of producing estrogen and androgens. And our adrenal glands, again, are widely affected by stress. It's also an antioxidant that protects cells from toxins that cause damage. So what antioxidants do is get the junk out and protect against oxidative stress, things that break down and age your cells prematurely. It also helps protect, grapeseed helps protect from sun damage, and the grapeseed is actually shown to bond with collagen molecules, fortifying your hair, skin, nails, bones, etc. Because collagen is in every tissue in our bodies, even our bones. So not taking a foreign collagen necessarily, that can be soothing to your gut lining, but I'm really in favor of helping your body produce its own, which again, we're going to talk about that more in a little bit. And then calcium. So estrogen aids in the intestinal absorption of calcium. So if you have low estrogen, it impacts your body's ability to use calcium efficiently. So when your hormones are out of balance, we start seeing that osteoporosis and things like that, right? So between the resistance training and the nutrition that I talked about earlier, things like this that help balance your hormones are also going to help preventatively against the things like osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, and even the beginning stages, the osteopenia that a lot of people find themselves in, a lot of women especially in their like 50s and 60s, right? And then we discussed magnesium earlier, which is also a part of this. This is something every woman should take. This is our quote unquote prenatal, but it's honestly a multivitamin for every woman. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's a 2-stage delivery system, which again is so smart because when we're releasing those kind of fatty components, the DHA and the omega-3s first, and then the other things to follow, it creates this wonderful like time release system in our systems. And so this prenatal is $46 for preferred clients, and it is packed with folate. So not the synthetic folic acid that when you see like enriched wheat bread or pasta or whatever, we don't want that toxic stuff. It is bad news bears for our systems. So folate affects progesterone balance, the synthesis of things like DNA, transfer RNA, amino acids, and then cysteines and methionine. So those are things that are very, very important, again, in balancing hormones in the development of certain phases of the fetus if you are pregnant. Estrogen, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone. So you ovulating on time and correctly, right? So this is going to help folate in many, many ways. DHA, I mentioned ours. DHA is a omega-3 fatty acid. I mean, it helps with eye health, but it also influences the release and function of a lot of hormones. It supports your brain, mood, and metabolism. It's an anti-inflammatory, retinal health. So not just your own eyes, obviously, to protect against degeneration as we get older, because you know how when you pass 40 and you're like, oh, I always had good eyes, but now I feel like I need cheaters, or I need something to see like that sign down the road, right? So we have that degeneration in our eyes, but those vitamins really help, and so do those omega-3 fatty acids, and that DHA will help also with if you are in a gestational phase where you are carrying another body within your body, it's going to help the formation of the brain and of the spinal cord and of the eyes and all of those things, right? It also helps with cell membrane fluidity. And so what do I mean by that? So our cells have a little membrane and they're like the gatekeeper. It lets out what's supposed to come out, which is toxins and garbage that needs to be taken out, and then it lets in what needs to come in. When those cell membranes become rigid, those cells can't get what they need in and can't get what they don't any longer need out. And that's when you start seeing cellular breakdown and cellular death happen more prematurely than it should. And then also, this is pretty cool, synaptic plasticity. So the synapses in your brain, those little tissues that are responsible for firing, little commands back and forth, right? Kind of like we were talking about with the hormones or chemical messengers. Well, now we've got the electrical impulses and stuff within our brains. Memory, learning, all of that is helped. And how many people are we seeing now because of all the heavy metals and all of the junk within our quote food and quote medicines and quote water and air and all that, right? We're seeing people's brains laden with things that they're not supposed to be laden with because these toxins are crossing the blood-brain barrier and then they can't get out. So this is going to help support our brain health with the plasticity of those synapses and increasing their function and their efficacy of what they do. So also one other thing, vitacholine. So choline is also very good for brain development, estrogen balance, cell membrane support as well. And then the myelin sheath of your nerves, that protective layer of your nerves, that when that gets damaged, you start feeling neuropathy and other things. This is really going to help guard against that, ladies. And it also affects liver health, which we kind of talked already about how awesome that is. So those are 3 things. If you are still having a monthly cycle, the prenatal and the cycle support is what you want. If you are peri, during, or postmenopausal, the prenatal and the meno support is what you want. And then honestly, for any woman of any age, I'm going to talk about a few other things that I think are very helpful all around to our baseline health, which is going to affect our hormones anyway. This Flora Complete is a little sachet. It's like a cherry citrus flavor. It's really good. I usually mix it in a fizz mid-morning. But this is going to help with a blend of flora that is good for the down there of our lady bits. So so this is going to really help with freshness, either if you typically tend to be too dry or too much the other way. It's going to help really balance that. Whether you are already experiencing like chronic things like UTIs or yeast infections, or maybe you don't, this is going to help preventatively, words are hard, with those things too. So really just a great pH balance for our lady parts. Remember I talked about those GLP-1s. Everybody wants to get injected with Ozempic and all these other drugs that are going to have massive side effects and are going to be very detrimental to people. Just mark my words. We can have a side conversation about that. I'm not going to get on that soapbox here. But when we are looking at sustainable daily habits to nourish and support our bodies to do what they are supposed to do and focus on stewardship and a lifestyle change that starts with this and this aligning and a shift of our mind and our heart and the way that we approach food and the way that we look at our own selves. Getting injected with something doesn't change any of that. It doesn't fix anything, right? It's a Band-Aid on a bullet hole that is going to have massive consequences down the road, mark my words. So if you're wanting to increase GLP-1 production and those peptides, but also support your gut health, your joint health, your cognitive function, all the things, this little sachet, our Green Synergy Elixir, has pre and probiotics, digestive enzymes, 12 different fruits and vegetables, as well as some of those cruciferous ones are in there, and things like spirulina and whatnot, as well as collagen building supplements. So I mentioned that earlier too. I'm a big proponent of our bodies building their own collagen. So things like vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, gotu-kola biotin, things like that. Because we can take a foreign collagen, don't know how clean it is from many companies. Since we're vegan, we don't do a foreign collagen, but we are really all about helping our bodies be empowered to do it themselves, right? And then the essential meal. So this is a protein, 24 different vitamins and minerals, 9 branched chain amino acids, and 25 grams of protein, avocado oil as the fat source for satiety. This is clinically proven if you replace 2 meals a day with the essential meal for you to have support in your weight loss. And so for a lot of us, things are hormonally and emotionally based, even rooted in the toxins in our bodies, because our bodies are so smart that they use our adipose or our fat tissue to shove toxins in, right? It will actually make more adipose tissue so you can gain weight because of your toxic burden. So if you're like, oh, plastic clothes, no big deal. Oh, Doritos and Ho-Hos and donuts, Diet Pepsis, like those things aren't just from a nutritional standpoint, but there's obesogens. There are weight gain causing chemicals in those personal care products, clothes that we wear that are made of plastics, and food stuffs that are causing weight gain, simply not even because there's too many calories, too much fat, bad fat, or too much sugar, but it's because of the toxins that they're dumping in our bodies that our bodies can't keep up with and get rid of. So I highly suggest Essential Meal. And then I do also want to talk about our detox tea. This little dude is so underrated, and we're hitting 30 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up here. But this has like milk thistle, licorice root, dandelion, peppermint, things they're going to love on our liver and kidneys, and keep those detox pathways clear. And so, you know, I would say for most people, if you were going to do my daily essentials, here's what I do. I do, to break my fast, I usually have 12 to 16 hours fasted. I break my fast with a protein shake. And then I will do my greens. Sometimes I'll mix my greens in my vanilla shake if I'm doing a vanilla one. And then in the late afternoon, evening, I'll do either an iced or a hot tea. Those are kind of my 3 daily essentials. And then I've added in the prenatal and the cycle support to help support my hormones. And so, you know, I had tons of supplements and things in my cabinet before, and Arbonne has really made it super simple. They've taken the guesswork out of it. They have really melded science and nature together in an ethical way to really support our bodies and the things that we truly need to function in better, to be the best versions of ourselves. And a lot of people would spend $200 or $300 on a pair of shoes or a purse or a concert ticket, whatever that is for you, getting your hair done. I'm like, but then you're still miserable. You still feel like crap. So what if you invested in your health for a month? All of our products are 90-day money back guarantee, by the way. And you're just like, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to empower myself. I'm going to nourish myself. I'm going to equip myself. And I'm just going to see if I don't feel better. And then once you feel better, sky is the limit on what you can accomplish and what you can do. And if you love the products so much that you want to share them with other people like I do, because I want to see people know better, do better, be equipped to have the life they were called to live, then let's talk, because there is such an opportunity in this, really just teaching other people to do what we do and loving and serving them and meeting their needs and empowering them to do the same thing. It's not rocket science. Arbonne's done all the guesswork. It's really just loving people enough to risk rejection and risk somebody misunderstanding you and not knowing your heart, to share something with them that is good and that can help them and bless them, that's been benefiting you. So we can definitely have that conversation if you're open to it. My email, as well as a link to the products, is going to be in the description of this video. So please hit me up with any questions that you have. If you would like to talk more about your situation and what you need and have a free consult, if you would like to look at the opportunity of doing this yourself and helping other people as you're helping your own self in your health journey, because you want freedom and choices for your future too, reach out anytime. And then for the rest of July 2025, we actually have our free preferred client memberships. Preferred clients get to shop at 20 to 30% off for a whole year from the date that you become a preferred client. We're super chill. They don't force you to order stuff every month just to keep your discount. You get your discount no matter when and what you purchase. But if you have a $300 SRP order, so that could look like my daily essentials, and maybe you add in the prenatal, right? So you're going to get yourself up and running with a couple of healthy habits for the day. You would get a free membership. You would get, so it's normally $29, which is not much anyway, but you get that for free. You get your free shipping, which is normally $11.95, and you get to pick a free gift valued up to $75 this month. And our primer, our body scrub, some of our energy fizz, like there's so many good things on that free gift list. So I would highly encourage you to click the link below, but definitely holler with any questions, and I am happy to serve you and answer those questions. There's like no additional cost for that. I always offer my CNHP services to all of my Arbonne clients because I really want to see you thriving the way that you were meant to. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day.